The golden age of One Piece has just begun. Hello and welcome to the table, and today I am back with a One Piece video, this time a tier list video, talking about all the sets that have come out this year, and saying how this year is just the beginning of what is to come in the best years of One Piece, as far as the trading card game goes. Maybe ever, but with all of that aside, let's get right into the tier list, first talking about OP10. Out of all the sets that have come out this year, it started pretty slow, at least with OP10, because this is a B. This is a B tier set. I mean, it's not bad. It's got some really good cards in it, in my opinion. Like, the Sanji, the red Sanji. That's cool. And there is a lot of, good stuff in the set. But compared to the other sets that have come out this year, it's just kind of It's nothing like super special or anything compared to just the perfection that is some other sets down the line. Speaking of some of those sets, EBO 2, while not being the best set that has come out this year, it is up there. It is a very, very, very good set. It's obviously a bit smaller. It's a bit more compact, but it has a lot of very good goodies in it. Such as, making GP Luffy, actually printing it and then making it the best deck for a second. So it's not lacking in power by any means. But it doesn't just make that deck good, it gave quite a few tools to some other decks too. Now, compared to what we're seeing in EBO 3 and EBO 4, whoa, I mean, it's like, I thought this set was nuts. EBO 2 was nuts, but man, its brothers are gonna be nuts, and its sister, EBO 3, oh my gosh, gonna be nuts. So yeah, EBO 2, while a very, very solid set, I am gonna put it in A tier, which is crazy to say. Even compared to some of, the main sets that have come out this year, EBO 3 is like maybe third place, which is nuts in my opinion. But getting past EBO 2, EBO 2 is in third place. But getting past EBO 2, I got OP11, Fist of Divine Speed. There's, OP10, Fist of Blood or whatever, Royal Blood. There's EBO 2, super pretty. But then we got Fist of Divine Speed. Of all the sets that have come out this year, this one is probably it's my second favorite personally, but it's not the best set that came out this year, and it's not the second best set that came out this year either, but it's still really good. There were a ton of really good cards that came out in that set. It was a really solid set, rivaling EBO 2, and in some ways being more powerful than it. But, there were certain things in EBO 2 that really was just like, what the heck? Like, just making GP Luffy, something that came out of nowhere, instantly the best deck in the game. I mean, you gotta give that set credit for doing that. And while OP11 allowed something arguably worse to happen, well, it's safe to say that this set could be argued to be put behind EBO 2, but in my personal headcanon, I have it above, and while some people might argue with it, I'm going to say OP11 is going to sit a bit above EBO 2 in my tier list video. So, scream at me all you want, I don't really care. This set's really good, and in my opinion, a teensy bit better than EBO 2. Which is nuts to say. But then we got OP12, which was a bit of a setback from the last two sets. It was really good, but it wasn't anything super insane. I mean, it had a ton of really good playable cards, obviously made Green Zoro a thing, Rayleigh's a super fun deck, and there's some good stuff going for it, but compared to something like OP11, I think OP11 had more powerful cards, it was an overall more fun set, and, it just, I don't know. I mean, the thing with OP12 is I can only think of 2 decks when I think of OP12. I think of Rayleigh, and I think of Zoro. When it comes to OP11, I think of UP Luffy, I think of, UP Luffy. I was just like, wait, did I get the things wrong? I think of UB Nami, or UI Nami. I think of Shirahoshi, because that deck just keeps getting support and is going nothing but up. Katakuri's a super fun deck, though, to be fair. That's, you don't really usually think of Katakuri, but, in my brain I can think about Katakuri. Don't give me crap for that. But, OP11 just kind of sticks in your mind a little bit more. It just kind of stands out more, and it has a lot of really cool cards. Like, I got my special Stussy in that set, and in OP12, it's kind of like, it just didn't seem as nuts compared to OP11, in my mind. So, while EBO2, I would say is a little bit worse than OP11, I will say that it is a little bit better than OP12. Now, you might be able to argue, we could put it in B tier alongside OP10, but I think OP10 kind of deserves its own tier. Because it was kind of the last set, where before it just the game, the quality of the sets just started to go. Now, I'm not saying that I'm immediately gonna regret saying that. I already regret saying that. So, OP09, great set. Absolutely wonderful set. I did not think it was a bad set by any means. PROB1, EBO1, there are plenty of good sets, obviously, prior to OP10. I'm not saying there isn't, but OP10 kind of was the last set before the quote-unquote new era of One Piece began. Because with EBO2, it's whoa. It just felt different. And then with OP11, it's okay, we're going this way. OP12, it's kind of pretty much keeping up that theme, maybe kind of pulling back a little bit because it's okay, we're getting a bit too quick. Then PROB2, OP13, now it's okay, we are in a whole new ballpark now. Now, granted, it was OP10 came out, all the new starter decks came out, and that was just holy crap. So it kind of went from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds flat after OP10 released. And basically, since then, it's just what world are we in? Is kind of how I feel when I think of One Piece compared to looking. Never mind. Anyways, getting past OP12 though, then I got PROB2. I'm just gonna say this now. Best set of the year. I really hope nobody argues with me when it comes to that statement. OP13, it's a great set. Absolutely love OP13. But PROB2 is just better. It's got some really cool new cards. Granted, a lot of them are more expensive than they should be. The rares are overpriced. Sorry. And then, we got some of the super rares like Marco. People know that card quite well at this point. And that card's a bit pricey. So it came out, PROB2, it brought us some new stuff. Some pretty crazy new stuff that we all love. And sometimes kind of loathe because it's why is this rare $10? So what are you going to do? But besides that, the reprints in this set were incredible. Everything that got reprinted in that set, in my opinion, basically needed to be reprinted. And it brought down the price of stuff that was just way too expensive. Cavendish. But, Cavendish aside, there are also plenty of other great reprints in that set. What's it called? Some of the secret rares totally needed reprintings. Because, for example, let's say that green secret rare Zoro from OP06 never got reprinted. Imagine how expensive it would be right now because it didn't get a reprinting in PROB2. That card would be $30 easily, in my opinion. But because of PROB2, sure, it's still $15, but it's way cheaper than it could be. And, Bon Clay, didn't really hit the price of Bon Clay super great. And I haven't checked the price of it lately because I got my playset. But still, seeing that card reprinted, you know, before something like Roger came out, and if Roger came out and Bon Clay wasn't reprinted, it'd be more expensive than it is right now. I mean, like, you can say, well, it didn't do much. Yeah, but, you know, just having another copy of it out there still, you know, makes it so Roger, you know, didn't make that card skyrocket. And whenever the Roger promo does come out, it's going to be nice to, you know, have extra ways to get that Bon Clay, more sets to pull that Bon Clay from, because, whew, that card's going to get pricey when that promo releases. But PRLB2, just so many great reprints in that set. And because of that, and, you know, the fact that it got some new goodies in it too, best set of the year. But then, lastly, I got OP13, which I'm also putting in S tier. That's, the set's just absurdly bonkers nuts. Let's be real. I mean, it's probably the most broken set that's ever been released. Emu. I don't know why that is. Emu. But, you know, it's got some really good stuff in it for Emu. But still, OP13, I mean, first off, green just now is the best freaking color in the game. Now, granted, OP12 helped with that a bit, but, like, holy crap. OP13 pushed green just above and beyond in that set with some of the stuff that got released. Law, Zoro, Sanji, plenty of other crap, but mainly those three. Especially, you know, when you look at certain decks that are just going to continue to get better with releases like OP14 and etc. And GR Luffy from OP13, which is also a deck at first I'm like, okay, this is fine. I don't really want to play this. I'd rather play, you know, UP Luffy. And while I love UP Luffy and I love purple, I'm starting to wish that I also built that deck, because that deck looks super fun and it's getting expensive quick, and I don't want to deal with it anymore. But still, it's getting some goodies really quickly. Emu, obviously, you know, we know that deck. There's Ace, which is its own monstrosity. And, you know, like, there's Sabo. Sabo is not a bad deck. And then we also got, you know, Roger, which also ain't a bad deck, especially when the Roger promo eventually comes out in 5 years. But still, I mean, like, the set doesn't, it's not lacking. It's not lacking in power by any means, or good heroes, or leaders, same difference. But still, OP13, just an absolutely bonkers nuts absurd set. And for all those reasons, OP13, I would say, is probably the second best set of the year. Besides that, you know, PROB2 obviously is the first best wonderful set. And then, you know, OP11, EBO2, OP12, OP10 are falling behind. Now, granted, it just drops off of OP10. I don't know, like, some people really like OP10, and I'm not saying OP10 was a bad set. It's just, it's just kind of looking at the other stuff that came out this year. And if you pull something cool, sweet. But that's with any set, in my opinion. But then you look at OP12 and EBO2 and OP11 and OP13 and PROB2 with all of, you know, the really good playables on top of, you know, some really sweet goodies. OP12 more so for, like, all the great playables, not as much for the collectability. But the other sets, it got collectability and playability. And that is the best combination that you can have in a set of, you know, any trading card game. And all four of those sets got it. So, yeah, absolutely wonderful year. But it's going to get better. And let's talk about that a little bit. But so, looking at the starter decks that came out this year, there's a ton of really good ones. The starter decks of the year were really good. I'm not ranking these, but I just kind of want to talk about them a little bit, and I'll talk about 2026 for a little bit. But so, the starter decks that came out this year were all really good. Some of them weren't great at first, but they aged well. Like, really quickly aged well. For example, Starter Deck 21 and Starter Deck 23. Both of those sets or Starter Decks were like kind of eh. But then you looked at some of the cards in there, like the 2K counter Sanji that came out in Starter Deck 21, obviously Gum Gum Mole Pistol. There's not bad cards in that Starter Deck anymore. And then in Shanks, a lot. It was just kind of, wasn't anything super crazy. And then when Shanks just became nuts for a second, that Starter Deck became incredible. And now, even, that Shanks isn't that good of a deck anymore, you still got some really good stuff in there, like the 2K counter Uta. I mean, that's one of the best 2K counters Red has ever gotten, and it's in a starter deck, and it's not a cheap card. So, yeah. And obviously, Jewel Ribani, I don't think she really needed it, the starter deck, but it helped, and, whatever. Obviously, Buggy. I mean, Buggy was garbage. It would still be complete garbage right now. But because of the starter deck, that alone has pushed Buggy above and beyond, and now he is at least playable. Now, granted, the list that I'm running, it obviously ain't like the top 5 best lists of all time, or the best decks of all time, but it can still win. It can at least win. So that's positive. And obviously we got Purple Black Luffy, which is not a bad deck, and the deck, this starter deck did help make that deck better. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good starter deck, too. Out of all the ones now, that one probably is the weakest. Maybe Yamato. But, I mean, it's just like, it's nuts. At least the ones that all came out at the same time. The starter deck 26, or the June 26th, 6th, really, whatever. Then Teach, again, not really as meta-relevant as he was, but still a pretty solid starter deck. It's got some pretty solid stuff for Teach in there. And it did push him a little bit over the top for a minute. And if Emu doesn't exist, Blackbeard is a complete nightmare right now. So, at least Emu's good for that, I guess. But then we got Yamato. Yamato's also really solid. It's got a really solid starter deck. The thing with Yamato and that starter deck is that I don't know. It didn't really push the deck. The deck's a lot better now because of a lot of the cards in the starter deck. Like Ashura Dojo, the Yamato Searcher, gigantic. And, some other stuff like the new Momonosuke, super rare. It's decent in some lists, kind of bad in others. But it didn't really do enough to, make the deck better. What really kind of made it better was the fact that, all the green stuff from something like OP13 just pushed it to, somewhat better. That was the juice that made it better, with stuff like the new Secret Luffy, which I think is a really underrated good card in that deck. And if you kind of are playing semi-more defensive in some ways, trying to keep Yamato safe, the life safe, and making your other big monsters to allow you to beat down on the opponent and kill them safe with blockers such as Mihawk is nice. And then, obviously, you got Hody's on play on a stick, which is also a counter. And, Demon Aura, that card is nuts. So, the starter deck's fine. It just kind of got outshined by OP13 support for every green deck ever. But then, the starter deck Ace and Newgate, it's nothing special in my opinion. Obviously, I love Ace and I love Whitebeard. 2 super awesome characters. I just kind of wish that the deck was better. And, there are obviously some good cards in there, like I Am Whitebeard, which I think is a good card in Ace. I don't know for sure, though. You'll have to check me on that one. But anyways, then there's the Learn Together starter deck, and that, was solid. It had some solid reprints in there. I think the fact that Cavendish also got reprinted in there kind of helped a little bit. And, besides that, it's nothing crazy, but, it's fine, I guess. But then, talking about next year, we got the new starter deck. Who cares about that? It's complete trash. Joking, kind of. But, yeah, we don't need to care about that one. What we need to care about, though, is OP14/EBO4 and EBO3. So, very start of the year is going to be nuts. So much stuff. Basically 4 sets in the first 4 months, which I'm not a gigantic fan of that because that's a little bit much, but it's not necessarily bad either because we'll finally be caught up here in the West with the East, with the Japanese meta, with the Asian metas, and just all that kind of whatnot. Everybody will be on the same playing field. Kind of. These promos, there's other stuff, but whatever. Close enough. But, you know, OP14, great set. Looks super cool. Cannot wait to get some goodies in there. You know, it'll finally get us out of the freaking OP13 meta. No more Emu. You know, just Emu, just Ace, just Zoro. There's some variants. At least different variants. So I'm fine with that. And then, obviously, EBO4 is going to be super helpful. We'll be the first ones to get it, EBO4 here in the West, so that's awesome. And, you know, just for the fact that I love EBO4, for the fact that it makes certain decks a little bit better, because I have been really wanting to build Kuzan forever, and now, with EBO4, learning that, you know, green, blue, and I want to say purple cards, yeah, are all coming out. All the EBO4 stuff with those colors are coming out with OP14. Great. Kuzan's great now. Or way better. And maybe an S tier deck? Maybe? That'll be sweet. It'll be like a buggy deck that costs $12. But it's good. So that'll be great. And you know, obviously, it'll just bring a ton of new stuff. It'll make things so different. There'll be so many decks that are good, that can play around with each other, and it'll be so different. And I'm so looking forward to that. And then with EBO3, when that comes out, that'll be great, because I'm still really tempted to build VV. That's going to be so expensive, but I kind of don't care. Probably going to do it anyways, even though I'm going to be crying on the inside while I do it. So VV's like one of my favorite characters ever. In One Piece. I would say, like, of all the female characters in One Piece, I would put them Nami, Vivi, Robin. And then, you know, some of the others, not as important or whatever. There are some that I do really love, though. I love Big Mom as just a very horrifying villain, at least in a Whole Cake. And then Pudding's awesome. You know, Pudding's cool. And there's obviously a ton of other great female characters in One Piece, but Nami, Vivi, Robin. Love those 3. Eventually, I would like to build a Robin deck. I'd like to build a Straw Hat deck for each and every one of the Straw Hats. That's going to take a minute. But, I mean, Vivi, I basically count as a Straw Hat. I mean, obviously, she's an unofficial Straw Hat, but I like Vivi more than a decent majority of the Straw Hats. Like, official Straw Hats. Which maybe is a bad thing, but I kind of don't care. I just really love Vivi's character. But with all that aside, you know, if you're looking forward to next year too, which I predict is already going to be a better year than this year, just with some of the stuff coming out, and with OP15 and then the other half of EBO4, oh my gosh, going to be so nuts. Bonnie's also up there, actually, because I remember that Bonnie's going to be a thing when OP15 and the second half of EBO4 comes out. So that'll be cool. So, I mean, it won't be green Bonnie, which I'm perfectly fine with. I hate that deck and I want that deck to die. So I'm fine with a Bonnie deck that isn't green. But anyways, or any deck that's not green. But still, with all that aside, hope that you're all looking forward to next year and a year that's better somehow than this year, I'm predicting. And again, leave a comment down below if you think that there's anything that I missed, or you were mad at my tier list, or any of that kind of whatnot. And I will catch you all in the next video. I don't know if I'm going to be posting another video before the new year, but if I do, I'll say Happy New Year then. But if I don't, Happy New Year, everybody. And have a great rest of your 2020.